This is the Root Advice Podcast with TikTok influencer Rudy A. Divorced after 16 years of marriage and single at 39, I share my mistakes and experiences to help your marriage, improve your dating life, and prepare you for life after divorce. Dating single mothers, let's face it, it's got a stigma on the YouTubes and the internets and the TikToks, and it's kind of a pain in the ass, in my opinion. There is this negative connotation that young men seem to have for them. And I wasn't aware of it, to be honest, until I was out in the dating world. Technically, I was a divorced, quote unquote, single dad with kids. And to be honest, I took it personal with the hearing everybody call single parents, in this case, single mothers, low hanging fruit, used up goods. You know, they've been ran through. Why do you want other person's problems? And again, knowing the circumstances with my ex-wife, I hated the fact that some men were going to look upon her that way. Now, there is a difference, I guess, because there's the older, married for 10, 15 years, now divorced with kids. And then there's the person, I guess, under 25 or under 30 with kids and never been married. So maybe there's a difference between the stigma. It doesn't justify the language and what young men call these young women. But I wanted to talk about my experience dating as a single dad and also dating single mothers. Now, when I started dating, I had kids. They were roughly 13 and 16. I met a couple of women who didn't want to date me because I had kids. And I go, that's perfectly fine. I didn't take it personal. I didn't take it as rejection. I just went on with the next woman, whoever that was. But I asked them, why is it, if you don't mind me asking? She says, well, I don't want baby mama drama. I'm like, okay, but you're assuming there's drama. I have a great relationship with my ex-spouse is what I would tell them. They go, no, they all say that. But it always ends bad. So again, they have previous experience in the dating world dealing with that. And I can understand that because from what I discovered as years went on, the ex-wife and I were practically an exception to the rule or a very small minority of people that actually get along great. So I can understand that. The other women that had said they didn't want to date me because of my kids is because they wanted complete attention. They didn't want my attention to deviate from them. They wanted to be my sole focus all the time. And they said they were very needy. And I said, well, that's not me. So good luck with your search. And I respected their decision. But she also said, I don't want to be anybody's mother. And I remember on that date, I got a little triggered and a little pissed off. I guess it was or one of the same. But I go, first off, I am not looking for a mother for my kids. They have a wonderful mother. We couldn't work it out as husband and wife, but they have a wonderful mother. And you coming into my space, first off, who are you to assume I'm going to introduce you to my kids? I'm very selective and careful with who I allow in my space. So that's two assumptions you've got wrong there. And three, I just wanted a companion, somebody to go out with and have a good time with. So we're on different planes, different perspectives. I'm moving on. And that was roughly my experience. There were women from time to time who wanted sole attention, or the older women at day, like, no, mine are gone. I'm done with that shit. I want to go party and have a good time. So there's a lot of women. And I want to say there's just as many women that have a problem dating a dad with kids, just as men not wanting to date a woman with kids. So I think it's equal, but just the young men are more vocal about it. Now, when it came to dating on the dating apps and dating single mothers, I had no problem with them. Now, again, if you don't want to date a single mother, if you're a young man in your 20s and you don't have your shit together and you're trying to figure yourself out, I understand not wanting to jump and have a family right away, especially if they're not technically your kids. I understand that. But the preconceived notions and all the insults is what I'm trying to resolve here and let you young man know that it's not like what you think it is or what Andrew Tate said. You know, go live in the real world, meet a few of them and make up your damn mind on your own. But anyway, on dating apps, I noticed that maybe out of 10 women, 9 of them were mothers already, all ages. And my particular market for women, that sounds kind of funny, was my age. I wanted somebody within maybe 30 up to like 40, 45 my age. And I recall I was very selective. There were mothers with kids, and I wanted their kids to be more or less my age with my kids. In other words, I said that wrong, but I wanted their kids to be my kids' ages so they can have some commonality, right? And plus, as a parent who shared custody with his ex-wife, I understood how things could just fall out from under our feet. You know, you're dating, there's a parent and, you know, they got a babysitter lined up, then Friday night comes along and then boom. the babysitter canceled or grandma canceled and now she can't go out. So you have to adjust to that. Well, I'll bring a bottle of wine and we'll watch some movies at your house. You make adjustments. So I was used to that because I had experienced that myself. And again, if you're not a parent, you don't know what that's like. And plus there were common frustrations and just daily obstacles as a single parent. Monday through Friday, forget it. You're constantly busy with getting the kids up for school, taking them to school, picking them up from school. And if they play sports, there's games, there's practices, and then there's dinner, and then there's a lot of their lives and connecting with them. So I wanted to date a single mother who understood that because I knew Monday through Friday, we weren't going to talk that much. We had our own lives to deal with. And that was perfectly fine with me. That meant that we both were not needy. And then we'd meet on weekends, like every other weekend, and we just do our thing, right? So that was a schedule and lifestyle that I had liked, and that's what I had seen and was experiencing while out in the dating world. Now, before I dated a single mother, I was very selective, just like anybody, friend, bro, anybody. I'm very selective with who I allow in my circle because I don't want anything to, cause my peace to be disrupted. So single mothers, whenever I started talking to them, I asked about their co-parenting relationship. If they went and said, their ex-father's a piece of shit, I can't find him, or he can't help me, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't going to get involved in that situation because my shit's together over here with my ex-wife. We have a perfect harmony over here. So why bring, drama into that harmony? Does that make sense? So I was very selective. And even that they had a great co-parenting relationship, there's a lot of obstacles that come about. What if the schedules just don't align up? Like I have custody Monday through Friday on this particular week, but she doesn't have her kids. So now we can't date because I have my kids with me, but she's free, or vice versa. So you have to look at the schedules to see if they align up. 2, let's say they do align up and you date and you're having a great time. But guess what? Sometimes, and I experienced this myself, their kids, and remember, I dated women with teenagers just like me. Sometimes their teenage kids would have a problem with their mom falling in love or dating another man, and they would be disruptive. They would start fights before she went out. They would constantly text her while she was out with me. And before you know it, I just, I got to stop seeing you, Rudy, because I want to be a good mother to my kids. And I just really got to give him attention. He's not allowing me to go out. You have to deal with that. That is a reality. The other obstacle that can happen is that you date and their kids get along great with you. And then you have the day where your kids and her kids meet. And guess what? The kids don't like each other. And you're not forcing the situation. You're trying to let it happen organically. And guess what? They just do not click. They hate each other. And now you got to break up because you got to do what's best for the kids. I know it sounds complicated, but those are the realities of dating while you have kids. Now, I don't want to discourage anybody if you're listening to this and considering divorce. I don't want you to get discouraged like, I'm going to stay with my miserable marriage. No, if you're miserable, you've done all the checks and balances to make it work and you're still not happy, then get divorced. There are those obstacles, and I want to be as bluntly honest with you with no bullshit. But again, in my case, it worked out in the end because I ended up dating my girlfriend now who's pregnant with my son, but she didn't have kids. This is her first child. And I remember dating her again with no kids. And I remember just being totally overwhelmed in the beginning because she was always available. She goes, hey, can I come over and stay over Tuesday or Wednesday? I'm like, during the week? Are you kidding me? Like, I got my kids. And she goes, well, I'm free. I want to see you. I'm like, okay, you can spend a night. And I remember the first few months, maybe 6 months to a year, I felt stretched out because my whole life up until the divorce, until I started dating my girlfriend now, I felt like I was cheating time away from my kids. So in other words, Monday through Friday, like I said, that was normal for me. That was used to that time. And now somebody was coming into that space. And instead of me watching a movie or playing games with my kids, I'm now upstairs with my girlfriend hanging out and doing whatever. And I remember just feeling conflicted. I'd be with my kids, but then I feel guilty because my girlfriend's upstairs doing nothing. Or I'd be with her watching a movie. I'm like, damn it, I should be watching a movie with my kids or something. So I was constantly back and forth and I wasn't in the now. And the one thing I do love about my girlfriend is like, she kept telling me, look, I don't need your attention. I just love being here with you. We'll sleep together. We'll spoon, but you go spend time with your kids. I don't want you to think I'm taking time away from you. So if you're listening to this, she wasn't needy. She just wanted to be there and just be there in bed when I went to bed. So that was a huge adjustment for me. And she'll tell you that as well. But it was about a year of me trying to wrap my head around that. It was a huge adjustment for me. But eventually I found a woman, like I said, who didn't have kids that understood what my kids were going through because, not to give up too much details, but my girlfriend did grow up, in a single family with her mom, and she saw the frustrations of just men coming in and just kind of making the situation volatile. So she was very cognizant of how my kids felt. And it was about a good 8 months until my kids were introduced to her, maybe 6 months. But even then, they were kind of like in their own rooms and didn't really talk that much. It took about 2 years, believe it or not, before my son and my daughter started warming up to her and talking to her. And now it's like one big family, one big happy family. And again, we went with that approach because we felt, and she felt from her experience, that was the most healthy approach to go about introducing your kids to somebody that you're going to hopefully spend the rest of your life with. So it worked out for me. So again, I don't want to discourage anybody who's considering divorce and you have children. Now, some of the other problems that, I wouldn't say problems, but some of the other circumstances I ran into while dating single mothers was they didn't want a boyfriend. They just wanted a dick in a box for the weekend. In other words, they had their shit together. They rebuilt their lives. They've been divorced maybe longer than you have, like 10 years, and they bought a home. They climbed that corporate ladder, and they had income, and their daughters are going to school. So they had their shit together, and they were so busy that they didn't have time for anything romantic. So they just were pretty much upfront and told me, look, my life's busy. I don't have time for drama or bullshit, but I think you're attractive, and I just want a companion to fuck on the weekends. And as a guy who was married 16 years and suddenly single, I'm fine with that. Sure, let's fuck all you want. So that's what I was for a number of single mothers for quite some time, is that they knew what they wanted. I was down with it because, again, I was married for so long and had my fun. But there's a lot of single mothers out there that are like that. They have their lives all worked out, and they won't remotely entertain the idea of anything romantic until their kids go off to college. And again, most of the kids were like 15, 16. So that's another 3 or 4 years. And that's what happened. That was very common in the dating world. So just FYI, if you're about to get divorced and you're about to go start dating, some single mothers are like that. And that is their call. And I was all for it. The other obstacles that are present when you date a single mother is this. And this happened 3 times in my dating career. I would be meeting a woman. Again, our kids hadn't met yet, but we were 4 months in and we were having such a great time. We'd go on weekend trips together, and her kid liked me, right? We all got along great. But what happened is all of a sudden she went distant. The cadence of texts, when you're with somebody and you text, you can feel the momentum of when that response is going to come back because you've been talking so much. You've been sending gifts and jokes. There's a feel to the text. And then all of a sudden it stopped. It was all of a sudden just one word, oh, I'm busy, I'm sorry. No more good night texts. It was just like, what happened? Oh, I fell asleep. That's when I started seeing this commonality. What happened was dating single mothers. There are times, not all the time, but there are times where you're just giving them the best life they've had in years. They're out, they're enjoying themselves, they're laughing, they're discovering something new. And their ex-husband or ex-boyfriend sees that she's no longer texting him. And he sees her not responding to his texts as often as she did before. And she's checking in on Facebook, posting where we're going and having an amazing time. Then all of a sudden, that ex-husband or ex-boyfriend will make a strong attempt to win her back. And that confuses the single mother. And I heard this 3 times in my dating career where, we're about to go see John Wick 2. I remember this night, and I was going to go pick her up. She calls me. She goes, I hate to tell you this. It breaks my heart. I don't even know if I'm making the right decision, but I'm going to give my son's father one more chance. He just came. We talked about it. We've been talking about it for the past few nights and weekends, and we're going to do what's best for our son. Let me repeat that. We are going to do what's best for our son. And I remember at that time, I wasn't disappointed and devastated because I was so used to loss. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll move on. But we're going to do what's best for our kid is the breakup sentence that most of the single mothers used on me. And were they 100% truthful with me? I don't know. Were they playing the mother card? Possibly. I later find out just through rumors and happenstance that most of them were just saying that so they can go back and be single. So they don't look like the victim. They don't look like they're a piece of shit. So they use their kids as a card to get out of the relationship. And unfortunately, that happened quite often. I'm not going to say I didn't use that myself once or twice, but no, I didn't. No, I'm just kidding. But it happens. And I'm talking about this because I want people to understand, one, the preconceived notions that you hear out there about single mothers. I totally can't stand them. This assumption and labeling a demographic as low-hanging fruit and bang through and use up goods. If you label a demographic like that, guess what? You're a piece of shit. You're a bigot, and you're an entitled man-child. So I said that, I'll say that again. You're an entitled piece of shit and man-child if you're labeling an entire demographic off what you hear on the internet. They're not like that. And there's not enough discussion out there on the pieces of shit boyfriends or husbands that don't help these mothers out there. Single mothers, the ones that I encountered in my experience, were some of the strongest women I have ever met. Stronger than a bunch of you fuckers, I bet. They were dealing with a career, upkeeping a household, cutting the fucking grass, paying the bills, and raising children. And a lot of you fuckers can't even do that. So the next time you talk shit about a single mother, look in the mirror and ask yourself, what have you fucking done all day other than play video games? Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, I will be making more. I got more interviews on the way. And if you have any suggestions for any topics you want me to talk about, please leave them in the show description. Please leave them in the comments. And again, do me a big favor and leave a review if you're listening to this on any listening platform. Any 5-star review, I would appreciate. This tells the algorithm that you love the show and you want to hear more. So please do me that favor. And as always, everybody, I'll see you next time.